Let's get a divorce. I'm cheating on you." Her bizarre logic left me speechless. I was so stunned I couldn't even think of a reply. Seeing my silence, she crossed her arms. "Right? And besides, what does your little affair have to do with me? This woman put you up to this? Let me tell you something. Leo, the answer is no. Not happening? Absolutely not." So much for the untouchable ice queen. She was having a full-blown meltdown. And this was Isabel Sterling, the woman I had a purely transactional marriage with. No feelings involved. On our wedding day, I made myself a promise. I would not, under any circumstances, fall for this beautiful, rich, impeccably dressed woman. It was a matter of pride. I was the one who set the terms. "Listen," I told her, "I won't interfere in your life, and I won't. Get any funny ideas? You do you. We just need to keep up appearances." "Fine," was her clipped, cold reply. Exactly what I'd expected. I'd heard the rumors after all. She was already in love with someone else. I never bothered to Google the guy's name or find out where he was. As long as he wasn't dumb enough to show up and gloat, I was golden. With my family's money, I could coast for the rest of my life, provided I never tried to actually start a business. So Isabel and I began our married life as polite, distant roommates. We were just two people coexisting under the same roof. Every day, I'd offer a perfunctory morning, afternoon, or night, and that was the extent of our interaction. Isabel, in turn, would respond with a single or maybe a slight nod if she was feeling generous. Occasionally, in what I assumed was a flicker of conscience, she'd remind me about a heat wave warning or tell me to take an umbrella if it looked like rain. "Are you going to the Vanguard tonight? I can have the driver take you," she asked one evening, her tone completely flat. The Vanguard was my usual spot with my Bediza. Handful of trust fund kids with nothing better to do than burn through our inheritances. Harmless fun, mostly. Isabel had come with me once, shortly after we got married. My friends, who had only seen her briefly at the wedding, immediately started giving me a hard time. "To what do we owe the honor?" Matt had slurred, smirking. "Didn't think the great Isabel Sterling had time to grace us mortals with her presence?" Isabel pursed her lips, clearly uncomfortable with the banter. "Well, I think it's important to support my husband," she stammered. She'd barely warmed her seat before her phone rang. She explained it was an emergency at the office and had to leave. Seeing that rare flicker of guilt on her face, I knew what was really going on. A late-night rendezvous with the one that got away, probably. "Go," I said, waving her off magnanimously. "Work is important." The second she was gone, they swarmed me, their faces lit up with gossip. "Dude," Matt leaned in. "Is she always that cold? Even at home?" I almost spit out my beer. How was I supposed to answer that? We were married, but we hadn't so much as held hands. Our schedules were perfectly misaligned. She was up at 6:4 spin class. I rolled out of bed at night, and I was asleep by the time she got home from the office. "Can we please talk about something else?" I said, trying to sound bored. Matt just gave me a knowing, pitying smile. "I get it, man. It's cool. We're all in the same boat with these arranged marriages. We do our own thing, but she's got a whole other life somewhere," one of my friends said. "Hey, you want to call some girls over? Guy like you, good looks, money, you could have your pick." "Yeah, man," another friend chimed in. "Live it up while you're young. Don't wait until you're old and can't get it up anymore." They were relentless, a chorus of enablers promising me the girls were clean, discreet, and professional. My resolve started to crumble. My friends were men of action, and before I knew it, 10 models were lined up in front of me. It was a dizzying sight, long legs, flawless skin. I'd specifically requested no heavy makeup, and they all had a surprisingly innocent look. My eyes landed on one at the end. "Hey, you," I said, pointing. She looked a little shy, and something about her reminded me of Isabel. The other girls left, disappointed. The one I'd chosen walked over, nervously tugging at the hem of her short skirt. I poured her a glass of wine. She took a delicate sip, the fragrance filling the air. Then she closed her eyes, leaned in, and moved to press her lips to mine. An image of Isabel flashed in my mind, her cool, perfect face. I flinched and pushed the girl away. "Never mind," I said gruffly. "You can go." Matt was practically cackling. "Seriously, Leo, pulled some strings to get you actual college students. Don't tell me you've got a problem downstairs. I shot him a death glare. You want to find out? See how much of a problem I have? He just laughed, clutching his ass and staggering away theatrically. The mood was shot, so I went home. Why was I always thinking about Isabel? Was I really that much of a hopeless romantic? I stared at the wedding photo on my nightstand. She was actually smiling, and at a rare, faint curve of her lips. But looking at it now, it seemed forced. It was strange. Isabel Sterling was a legend in the financial world. She came from old money, had a double PhD from Stanford, and had taken over a division of her family's company, turning it into a powerhouse. It was like she had a crystal ball. Every move she made turned out spectacularly right. And on top of all that, she had the kind of face that could launch 1,000 ad campaigns. Even without a stitch of makeup, the only thing I couldn't figure out was why she'd married into my family. The Sterlings and the Hayes had barely moved in the same circles. My family's fortune, while still massive, had been on a slow, steady decline for years. We had a bad habit of jumping into every new industry just as the bubble was about to burst. The rumor was that her grandfather had arranged the whole thing. After running the scenario through my head 1,000 times, I'd landed on a theory. Isabel needed a respectable, stable marriage as a cover so she could carry on with her true love in secret. For me, the deal was a win-win. The alliance with the Sterlings was a lifeline for my family's company. The only downside was seeing Isabel's face every day. It stirred things in me I was trying to suppress, especially in the mornings when she'd be in the foyer dressed in a sharp blouse and pencil skirt, pulling on a pair of black stockings before stepping into her heels. In those moments, I finally understood how perfectly normal guys could snap and end up doing hard time. Having that walk in front of you every day was inhuman. No, I was getting the short end of the stick here. One day, she and her secret lover would go public and I'd be left with nothing. I had to at least collect some interest on this investment. So on our second anniversary, I hatched a plan. I gave the housekeeper the night off. I set up a candlelit dinner, scattered rose petals from the front door all the way to the bedroom. It was going to be a night of seduction, a grand, sweeping romantic gesture. The sound of a key turning in the lock made my heart pound against my ribs. Isabel walked in, and for a split second, her eyes lit up. I thought, this is it. It's working. Then her face hardened. What is all this? She asked, her voice laced with disdain. Her brow furrowed. That was definitely not the look of someone pleased. The sheer force of her disapproval left me tongue-tied. She took a deep breath. Get some rest. I'll have the housekeeper clean this up tomorrow. To get back to the office. And with that, she turned and walked out. She didn't come home for a month. At first, I was just embarrassed. Then I was angry. Finally, a deep, weary sadness settled in. Was it so wrong to want to feel some connection with my own wife? I woke up in the middle of the night, reaching for the empty space beside me in bed. That's when I made my decision. You want a divorce? Isabel held the papers, her voice trembling slightly. Why? I let out a bitter laugh. You're seriously asking me why? We don't talk. We don't sleep in the same bed. The only thing you ever ask me is if I need money. You've never once asked if I'm happy. And most importantly, I stopped myself. If I kept going, I'd be in too deep. I couldn't let her know. I couldn't let her know I'd fallen for her. My mind, for some reason, started translating falling for someone into falling in love. God, what was wrong with me? Any more explaining? And I'd blurt out, I'm in love with you. To stop myself, I grabbed the first excuse I could think of. I'm in love with someone else. A woman as proud as Isabel would never tolerate her husband blatantly cheating on her. This is how it works. I want to be with her, I added, twisting the knife. Silence. The air in the room grew thick and heavy. I could almost feel the storm gathering around her, see the lightning flash in her eyes. She looked like a vengeful goddess, and I had to suppress the urge to shout some ridiculous movie line. You're saying you have a mistress? She finally asked, her voice dangerously low. I nodded. Yes, and I don't want her to be the other woman anymore. I want to give her a real life with me, so we have to get a divorce." Her pupils dilated. Her whole body began to shake. I was about to say something to soften the blow when she pointed a trembling finger at me. "If you're having an affair, that's your problem. You break up with her." "Why should I have to get a divorce? What kind of decent woman agrees to be a mistress? As long as I don't agree to this, she will always be the other woman. Divorce is not an option. Do you hear me?" "Absolutely not." Her eyes were red, and she looked like she was about to cry. I held out a tissue. "Hey, calm down. I know I'm the one in the wrong here, but don't just shut it down." I guided her to the sofa. "Look, if we get divorced, you'll be free to be with your real soulmate. You're in charge of the company now. Your family can't control your life anymore. Wouldn't it be better for everyone?" Just as I was about to launch into a heartfelt, logical appeal, she snatched the divorce papers from my hand and ripped them to shreds. "She want my place?" she hissed. She can keep dreaming." She stormed off into the bathroom, leaving me alone. On the sofa, lost in thought. And then it hit me, the real reason. Over the past 2 years, the Hayes and Sterling corporations had become deeply intertwined. We were in the middle of a critical joint venture. If we divorced now, it would send both our companies' stocks into a nosedive and crater the entire project. The financial fallout would be catastrophic. I slapped my thigh. Damn it, I'd miscalculated. Of course, she was a brilliant businesswoman. She'd seen the bottom line in an instant. For the next few days, she started coming home from work on time. She was suddenly around a lot. If I was scrolling through my phone on the couch, she'd be right there, tapping away on her laptop. If she saw I was playing a game, she'd pointedly glance back at her own screen. I got bored and decided to try cooking. As I stood in the kitchen, she hovered nearby, watching me like a hawk. I managed to burn the steak. It's a little charred. I said, turning to her, "You want it?" She looked like she was about to bite through a nail. "You only offer me the food you ruin." "Fine," I said, moving to scrape the blackened mess into the trash. She lunged forward, grabbed my hand, then dumped the steak onto a plate and started tearing at it with her fingers. "I thought you said you didn't want it." "She can eat your cooking. Why can't I?" I had a feeling she was picturing the non-existent other woman as she chewed on that burnt piece of meat. Weirdly, it was kind of attractive. That night I had just settled into bed when I felt the mattress dip beside me. I instinctively scooted away. I glanced over and met Isabel's wounded gaze. "Do you hate me that much?" she whispered. I quickly moved back. "No, of course not." I had no idea what to say next, so I just turned off the light. In the darkness, I felt her shift closer, our arms brushing against each other. A wild part of me was praying she'd just pounce on me and we could settle this once and for all. Instead, the night passed in total silence. When I woke up, she was gone. A note was on the nightstand. "Office emergency. Wait for me." She had her life. I had mine. But what was my life exactly? That morning I got a text. "Leo, it's Chloe. Could we meet?" "Chloe? Who?" "Oh, right, Chloe Miller." The shy one that night. She looked like a supermodel trying to pass for a college kid. I called her. She picked up immediately, her voice bright with excitement. "Leo, you called. I got into Kolya. I wanted to thank you. I couldn't have paid my tuition without the money you gave me." As we talked, I got the whole sad story: gambling dad, sick mom, a family in pieces. The night at the lounge had been supposed to be her first time. When I'd sent her away, she'd started to cry right there in the dim light. "Please, sir," she'd begged. "If you send me back, they'll keep my deposit. I won't be able to survive." So I paid her for the night and told Matt to make sure she got home safe. And now, just a few weeks later, she was starting at an Ivy League school. She said she wanted to see me one last time before she left for the semester. How could I say no? We agreed to meet at a Starbucks. When I got there, I realized it was on the ground floor of Isabel's office building. I remembered she didn't drink coffee, so it was probably safe. Wait, why was I still thinking about that? We were getting a divorce. I pushed open the door and saw Chloe at a table by the window. Sunlight streamed in, catching her in a halo of light. She was wearing a simple sundress, but there was no hiding her long legs or the vibrant, youthful, energy she radiated. I felt old. Double quotes, Leo. What do you want to drink? My treat, she said, cheeks flushing. I glanced at the menu and picked the cheapest thing, plain black coffee. She shook her head quickly. Oh no, please get something else. I have 3 part-time jobs now. You don't have to get the cheap one. I feel bad enough asking you to meet me here. Her voice trailed off. I gently tapped her on the head. It's not about the money. I actually like this one. Duh. And stop with the formal stuff, it's weird. Just call me Leo. Her eyes lit up. Really? Okay, Leo. Smiled and nodded, but then I felt a sudden, intense prickling on the back of my neck. Leo, I turned. It was Isabel. Her face was a thundercloud, dark and stormy. Behind her stood a few people in sharp suits. Her corporate lieutenants, I guessed. My heart started hammering. I felt like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie. Isabel strode over to our table and leaned in, whispering fiercely in my ear. Play along. My team is watching. Give me some face. I glanced over at the entourage. Their expressions were practically screaming gossip. The second our eyes met, they all looked away. We weren't divorced, yet Ty couldn't blow this up. I nodded. Then I realized Isabel was staring daggers at Chloe. This is Chloe Miller, I stammered. A friend of mine. A friend. A triumphant, predatory smile spread across Isabel's face. Leaned forward so only the 3 of us could hear. You hear that, sweetie? You're just a friend. Platonic friend. Leo still comes home to me at night. And don't think that little schoolgirl act is fooling anyone. How much? How much will it take for you to leave him alone? The words hung in the air. I was stunned. Chloe was horrified. She looked at Isabel, this woman acting like a mother hen protecting her chick hand, turned beet red. I wasn't trying to fool anyone, she whispered, eyes welling up. I just wanted to thank Leo. Tears started to roll down her cheeks. Couldn't stand it. Isabel, what the hell's wrong with you? Apologized to her. Now. Isabel stared at me, aghast. Leo, can't you see what she is? She's a snake. I don't care if she's a rattlesnake, apologize or I'm leaving with her. Fine, I'll apologize, she yelled, grabbing my arm. She turned to Chloe. I'm sorry. The words were barely out of her mouth before she seemed to reconsider. Wait, why am I apologizing? She's trying to steal my husband? Do I have to say I'm sorry? Chloe finally understood what was happening. She bowed her head quickly. It's okay. It was all a misunderstanding. I should go. Bye, Leo. She stood up, and as she passed, discreetly pressed a small box into my hand. After Chloe left, Isabel's 5 employees were still lingering, looking like they wished they had popcorn. I sat down, trying to act casual. I thought you were buried. In work? What are you doing drinking coffee? For some reason, Isabel's mood seemed to have lifted. Finished early. Thought I'd treat the team. She waved him over. Order whatever you want, tits on me. My husband and I need to talk. For a minute, so you can just hang out. Her team started gushing. You and Mr. Hayes are so cute, Miss Sterling. Thank you so much, we won't hold back. I shook my head. Don't thank me? I'm not paying. Then I stopped. Isabel's money was technically our marital property, so in a way I was paying. We're so jealous, Mr. Hayes, one of the women said. Miss Sterling talks about her husband at the office all the time. All right, that's enough, Isabel said, shooing them away with a smile. Go order before you wear out, you're welcome. But I was stuck on what the employee had said. Isabel. Talks about me at work? No, wait, she'd said her husband, but the rumor was she was in love with someone else. Her husband could be a code word for him. My good mood evaporated. I stared at Isabel. You brought the guy you're in love with into your company? Looked completely taken aback. I must have hit a nerve. I'd already had someone look into it. I knew about her private conversations, how she told her inner circle she was in love. She was known for being a loner, rarely making friends. The only person she'd ever been close to was a guy from college. I'd heard she'd even invested in his startup, and together they'd won some national entrepreneurship competition. I'd seen a photo of them. He was handsome, clean-cut, and looked perfect standing beside her. If her grandfather hadn't forced her to marry me, they'd probably be married by now. The thought soured everything. even if she talked about me. At work, it was probably just for show, something to add spice to her secret affair. I stood up abruptly. Isabel, that's going too far. She blinked, then clasped her hands together like a guilty child. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Her quick apology threw me off, and I sat back down. What exactly were you wrong about? I swear I haven't brought anyone into the company. Besides, aren't you the one cheating? She glanced toward where Chloe had been sitting, her brow furrowing. Was it her? Did that girl tell you lies about me? I knew I shouldn't have let her go. She turned back to me with a pitiful look. Do you like her that much? You believe everything she says, but you won't believe me? She closed her eyes like she was making some big, painful decision. When she opened them again, they were red-rimmed, double quotes, fine, she said, her voice shaking. But I have to be the first wife. I nearly choked, spraying coffee across the table. What? Was that what she thought this was about? Was I somehow giving off a polygamy vibe? Wait, no. Stop. My plan was to use a fake affair to get a divorce, not start auditioning candidates for a harem. Something was very, very wrong here. Looking at Isabel, who was now nodding to herself like she'd solved a complicated puzzle. A wild theory started to form. Isabel, I said slowly, the person you're in love with? It isn't me, is it? A blush crept up her cheeks all the way to her ears. She looked down and gave a small, shy nod. The world screeched to a halt. None of the internet forums on how to get your wife to divorce you had ever mentioned this as a possible outcome. I was about to press for details when her phone rang a harsh interruption. After a short conversation, she looked at me with real regret. Honey, something's come up at the office. I have to go. Go home and wait for me. Her professional mask slid back into place as she walked out of the Starbucks with purpose. I left soon after, my brain overloaded. I needed time to process. Had a lot of questions. First, when did Isabel start having feelings for me? Second, if she liked me. Why did she react with so much anger to my anniversary surprise? And third, was she still in contact with that handsome college boyfriend? To get answers, I decided to wait for her. While I waited, I recreated the scene from our anniversary. A candlelit dinner, rose petals scattered across the floor leading to the bedroom. I even wore the same suit. The living room was dark, the candlelight flickering. When Isabel opened the door, she froze. Slowly, she took off her blazer, revealing just her silk blouse and skirt. She stepped onto the path of rose petals, her stocking feet silent on the floor. Her eyes glittered with a strange light. This time, it wasn't anger. This time, I saw fire in her eyes. Leo, she said, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across her face. You asked for this? I didn't grasp the weight of those words until the next morning, when it took both hands to haul myself out of bed. The mattress was still sprinkled with crushed rose petals, but now they were mixed with something else, a few bright red stains on the white sheets. Something felt wrong. No woman's first time was supposed to be that intense. Was she on something? Adrenaline thudded in my chest as the bedroom door opened. Isabel walked in, moving a little stiffly but glowing with a radiant smile. Honey, you're awake. Are you hungry? I made breakfast. I picked up my perfectly cooked scrambled eggs and toast, studying her as she sipped orange juice like a queen surveying her kingdom. Last time I did the whole candlelit dinner thing. We're furious, I said. What changed last night? She dabbed her lips with a napkin. I thought you'd been corrupted by some other woman. You never used to be so romantic. And honestly, I'm not very exciting. I don't know any of the tricks those other women do. It sort of made sense. I wasn't usually one for grand gestures. Maybe last night was just a testosterone-fueled fluke. Still, I had questions. I met her gaze. I heard you were in love with someone in college. What was that about? You still in touch? Are you trying to have it both ways? Even after last night, I wasn't interested in being part of a love triangle. Who are you talking about? She asked, looking genuinely puzzled under the table. I tried nudging her leg with my foot, but her silk stockings were so smooth, my foot just slid off. It probably looked like I was flirting. I stopped and cleared my throat. Don't play dumb. I know you were all over that one guy in college. She frowned, thinking, then her eyes lit up. "Oh, you mean Jason Carter?" Of course, the name matched what I'd heard. My heart sank. Seeing my crestfallen look, she panicked. "No, it's not what you think," she blurted, jumping to her feet. "I never liked him. Who's been feeding you these lies?" When that didn't seem convincing enough, she rushed over and held up her hand like she was taking an oath. "Honey, don't misunderstand. He just had a good head for business. So, I helped him out, that's all. I swear. Besides, he's married now, do you know that? His wife is my executive assistant. She's on maternity leave right now. That's why I've been working so much overtime." She pulled out her phone and opened her messages. "Here, look at our conversations." I turned my head away, but she followed my movement, shoving the phone toward my face. Her desperation was so earnest, I finally sighed. Okay, I believe. You." She got up from her half-kneeling position and returned to her breakfast. After a few bites, she suddenly narrowed her eyes at me. "Did you have me investigated?" Crap. She hated anyone prying into her private life. I waved my hands. "No, honey. Listen, let me explain." She leaned forward and pressed a finger to my lips. "She'll just admit it too, like me more, don't you? No matter how wild the other women are, you'll always have a place for me in your heart. They're just passing ships in the night. I'm your final destination." She was getting carried away, a goofy, lovesick grin spreading across her face as she spiraled into some rom-com fantasy. I knew I had to set the record straight. "Actually," I said, "I wasn't cheating. I thought you didn't like me, so I made it up as an excuse to get a divorce. I was afraid that if I stayed, I'd fall so deeply in love with you that I'd never be able to get out." The second the words left my mouth, I cringed at how cheesy they sounded. Isabel just stared at me, dumbfounded, for a full 30 seconds. "Honey, you really like me?" Looking at her shocked expression, finally knew for sure the person she had been in love with, the one she'd told her friends about, really was me. When the realization hit her, she started tearing my toast into little pieces and feeding them to me. And then right there in the living room, she decided to test my youthful stamina all over again. After we cleared the air, Isabel was like a different person. When I went out with my friends, she would tag along, smiling sweetly and answering all their questions. "Miss Sterling, aren't you usually swamped with work? How do you have time to hang out? Being with my husband is my most important job." "Oh, Isabel, you're suddenly so clingy with Leo. Isn't it normal for a wife to be clingy with her husband? I mean, our Leo is a great catch." "Of course he is, and I'm going to take good care of him. Everything I have is his." It got so gushy I could barely listen, but in front of my friends, I finally felt like I could stand a little taller. The tables had truly turned. Her phone rang. I knew it was work. "Go on," I said. "Go, and come back soon," she planted. A loud kiss on my cheek and drove off. The moment she was gone, Matt leaned in with a sly grin. "The Miz is gone. Should we call some girls to liven things up?" I just shook my head. "You guys have fun. I'm heading home." I already felt like I was walking on clouds these last few days. Any more fun and I might actually float away. As I was leaving the club, my phone buzzed with a text. "Leo, help me." It was followed by a location pinned from Chloe. We weren't close, but I couldn't just ignore it. In a weird way, she was part of the reason Isabel and I had finally worked things out. I got in my car and sent Isabel a quick text. "Going to check something out? Be home later." I forwarded her the location pin but didn't mention Chloe. The address led me to a rundown auto repair shop in some industrial corner of Queens. The air was thick with the smell of mildew, and the place looked like it had been abandoned for years. "Chloe?" I called out, keeping my voice low. Had her dad's creditors caught up with her? Silence. I pulled out my phone and called her. The moment she answered, she screamed, "Leo, run!" The quiet shattered as figures stepped out from the shadows. "Keep an eye on the girl," a gruff voice barked. "This is Isabel Sterling's husband. Grab him." 4 menacing-looking guys started closing in. Hearing Isabel's name, I figured this was about business, probably one of her rivals. Facing 4 beefy thugs, I wasn't exactly confident. Even with a few years of boxing under my belt, before they could react, I lunged and took one of them out with a quick, hard shot. The other 3 grew cautious, grabbing pieces of wood and a steel pipe, forming a triangle around me. I snatched a broken plank from the floor to defend myself in the chaos of the fight. I heard Chloe scream, "Watch out!" A rush of air passed behind me, and before I could dodge, there was a sickening thud and a crunch, but it wasn't my bone.
Ow.
I felt no pain. I whipped around and saw Isabel standing behind me, her arm raised to block a vicious blow meant for my head. "You touch my husband," she snarled, eyes blazing with fury, "and I will kill you." Seeing the steel pipe smash into her arm made something in me snap. I saw red. I stopped defending and just attacked wild, desperate blows hitting, until I didn't know where my fists were landing. Sirens wailed in the distance, echoing through the garage. My legs gave out, and I collapsed. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I smelled was antiseptic. Everything was glaringly white. Isabel was asleep in a chair. Beside my bed, her head bandaged, one arm in a heavy cast. When I shifted, her eyes snapped open. "Leo, honey, you're awake."
Doctor.
Her voice shook with tears. After a checkup, they told me I had only bruises and scrapes. Isabel, though, had 2 fractured arms, one in a cast, the other in a splint. "You're hurt way worse than I am," I said, exasperated. "Go lie down," she shook her head stubbornly. "No, I have to watch you." "Watch me do what? I'm not going to run away." I was so scared, she whispered. If I'd been a minute later. She explained the men weren't after Chloe, they were after us. "Bed 7 needs a new IV." A cheerful nurse in pink scrubs called out as she came in to change my bag. This one was an antibiotic. Watching her work, my dry throat made me swallow hard. Just a reflex, but Isabel saw it. A jealous fire lit in her eyes. For a second I thought she might throw herself at the poor nurse, but her cast made that impossible. Thankfully, a little later, the doctor came in for his rounds. He gave me a quick check, then focused on Isabel's arms. She kept giving me smoldering looks that could have melted glass, looking at her in her designer blouse. Ripped in several places, I raised a weak hand. "Excuse me, doctor? Will this injury affect our, marital activities?" The doctor blinked, then understood. "Oh, you mean intercourse?" "Yes, absolutely. It's strenuous and could cause the fractures to shift. As a husband, you should be more concerned about your wife's recovery than that." I turned to Isabel with a serious face. "You heard him? Doctor's orders?" "Fine after." The doctor left. She softened. "Honey, I'm so sorry. All I ever did was work and make money. But now I sit's useless." I gave her a flat look. "What do you mean your money? Where did you get money?" She frowned. "It's from my company, of course. And who do you earn it for?" "For you. So how did money you earned for? Me become your money? Because I gave it to you? Why would you need to give me my own money?" "Well, then I won't give it to you." "Why would you withhold my money from me?" She froze, clearly short-circuiting. Then she lunged toward me, but I quickly put up my hands. Whoa, doctor's orders. Bed rest. We need to rest."